We're so busy in our lives, and we've set up our lives to avoid, set up our lives around instant gratification. We've set up our lives to not feel. Well, here's the news. If you cannot feel your emotions, why are you even thinking that you can achieve happiness if you can't even feel?
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Joining us today is an internationally renowned holistic counselor, trauma recovery expert, and author of 21 books. She specializes in helping people decode the hidden emotional messages behind physical symptoms, and her methods have helped thousands break free from chronic pain, trauma, and emotional stress. Her work has been recognized globally, and she recently presented her latest research at a prestigious medical conference in London. Over the past decade, she has taught workshops in over 43 countries, empowering individuals, practitioners, and therapists with the tools to heal deeply and permanently. She has developed 3 powerful healing modalities: metaphysical anatomy technique, metapsychology coaching, and integrative soulful therapy, all of which are rooted in neuroscience, psychosomatics, and compassion-based trauma recovery. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcoming the best-selling author, speaker, and holistic counselor, and my new friend, Dr. Evette Rose. Welcome to the show. So I would love to start with your story. And you openly speak about your personal trauma and even wrote an autobiography. So can you tell us a bit about your story and how did it set you on this path?
That is such a great question. Sometimes when we go on the personal development path, we have there's a goal that we have. There's something that we want to achieve. There's something that I find a lot of people, they have awareness as to what they would like the outcome to be. And I have to be honest, I didn't really know what my outcome should be. All that I knew is that my life just wasn't working. And the reason why it wasn't working for me was I struggled with depression. I had anxiety. There were just so many things in my belief system that just was completely counterbalancing what I was trying to create. But I didn't realize that. And believe it or not, I actually wanted to become a crime scene investigator. I was studying that. I wanted to become a lawyer. But here I am, a speaker, I'm an author, teaching across the world, personal development work, and something that I was even raised in as a Christian, that's taboo, right? Any change work, healing work, it's all, that's evil. That's the devil's work. And when I talk about it, I still it's like there's a glitch in my mind where I'm thinking, how did I get from there to here? But ultimately, we change our life because we are in a place of pain. We change our life. We feel that motivation and that desire to do something because something within us is just not working. We're not feeling the happiness that we want. We're not feeling the freedom. We're not feeling the liberation from certain struggles that we have. And I found myself in that exact same place. I was working in corporate. I was doing really well. However, the studies became more expensive and I couldn't afford it anymore. So everything almost like just gracefully pushed me out from where I thought I should be to where I was meant to be. But the path was very uncomfortable because my emotions started to flare up more. It's like the universe was showing me more and more on a daily basis that, Evette, what you're doing is not going to get you to where you want to be. I didn't understand that at the time. And the anxiety that I felt, the stress that I felt, everything, because my father, just to give a little bit of context, my father was a drug addict, and he was a self-medicated drug addict, and he was also an alcoholic. He was a very hostile, very violent, volatile person to grow up with. Not easy. And I was the only child, so there was no one else to share the burden with. And my upbringing with him really shaped how I see the world. It shaped my relationships. It shaped my definition of success. It shaped my identity as a woman as well. And because of this harsh circumstances, having to fight for everything, fight for emotional survival, fight to be understood, fight to be heard, I carried that fight with me into my future. I carried that right into my relationships, into my career, everything. My relationship, most importantly, with myself. So the destruction that this caused and created was incredible. And that is what gave birth to all this anxiety, this depression, the sadness. Because the way that I try to approach life with fighting, 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 I'm fighting for happiness, I'm fighting for freedom, I'm fighting for peace. But hello, Evette. Well, have you noticed that it's a little bit hard to feel happy when you're angry? Have you noticed that it's a little bit hard to feel peaceful when you're angry the whole time? So I was using the wrong approach, the wrong mindset, the wrong, motivation to try to get to where it is that I wanted to be. There's a difference between healthy determination and fighting and the wounded determination and fighting. Mine was wounded because I did everything that I possibly could to prove and show my father that I will never become like him. That was my core foundation. Joyan, believe me if I tell you, as a child, from the age of 12, every night I was lying in my bed, and I remember I would look at the ceiling and it was just darkness at night, and I would visualize my life of financial stability. What is it going to look like and feel like? I didn't focus on the specifics, but I focused on the emotions of it. How is it going to make me feel? And that emotion is what kept me going. That became my gasoline. But because I felt so unworthy of having it, and my father's voice that was here in the back of my mind, I felt that I had to fight for it. So from such a young age, I adapted to the wrong, unhealthy approach to try to achieve this success. And as I matured into my adult life, this anger grew and grew, stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where I pushed people away. I was angry all the time. I was miserable. I was angry, but I was successful. I had a big house. I moved to Australia. I had a great car. I had an incredible job. I was paid really well. And I woke up every morning hating my life. I hated my life. My partner at the time was an alcoholic. He was violent. He was the mirror of my father. So it's like I recreated my childhood environment as an adult, because that's what regulated my nervous system. And I needed that anger, that cortisol, that adrenaline to push and to fight. And that method, that formula towards success also was my greatest downfall, because it's not sustainable, right? So the more I was becoming successful, the unhappier I actually became, because of the method that I used to get there. And one day I was 23 and it just all collapsed. And I think I can officially say I entered my dark night of the soul time in my life. And I just woke up and I said, I don't want to wake up feeling like this anymore. What's the point? My bank account is full. I got the success that I was visualizing and envisioning. I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate the people around me. I hate my job. I hated everything. I was miserable. And I don't know if anyone can relate, where you just sometimes hit that wall And you just know without a doubt that something needs to give. Something has to change, because one more day like that is not an option. It's just that big, hard stop, no. And I hit that wall. And I sat there and I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. I always see myself as someone that's very resourceful. I always have an answer. I always have a solution available. And now I felt like my bag was empty. I didn't know which way, how, why. And at this point as well, I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God because my father was the drunk Christian, the alcoholic with the Bible under his arm, right? So my introduction to God, to religion, was toxic. It was so unhealthy. I had this love-hate relationship with God, and I shut that door. So to go on my knees and to pray was not on my mind. And I sat there, I'm thinking, and I had this voice come in and it said, Evette, you're asking the wrong question. And it was not my voice. It didn't feel like it had my tone. To this day, I can't explain it. But because I wanted to end my life that day. Like this was it. And I had a shot glass of vodka. I had like a couple of cigarettes at the time as well. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I called in sick for work. I wasn't going to work. And the voice came again and it said, why are other people happy around you and you're not? And that's when it struck me. And I sat there and I'm thinking, why are they happy and I am not? What are they doing that I am not? Now, I'm a highly competitive person, but in a good way now. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, right on. There's something that I am overlooking. There has to be a formula. There has to be something there. And believe it or not, I felt so unresourceful. And this was 13, 14 years ago. You know, back then when we had the big Dell clunky computers, right? And I'm sitting there in front of this big computer and I typed in how to be happy. And then I got Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, crystals, angels, color therapy. And I sat there and I'm thinking, my ego had a panic attack. It's like, no, we're not doing that. No. But then the other side of me is like, well, Evette, you don't have a better solution. You don't have the answer. Who are you to question what is being presented to you? Long story short, after the grappling and the arguing in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm going to start with Neil, with Conversations with God. And fast forward 3 months later, I worked so hard and so much on myself, and I changed my life around to such an extent that I quit my corporate job. I found a business partner and I started my own personal development business, put a few videos on YouTube, just taught people how I did it, and booked out for 2 solid years internationally, speaking and teaching. So that is how my career started. It's not as simple as like, oh, I just had this passion to help people and I started reading and, researching. And it's like, this is real lived experience, real lived pain and distress that I learned. How do I translate that into an educational format, but also integrate the learnings of this myself? That's how my journey started. And these books, these 21 books, I always laugh when people say, wow, you wrote 21 books. I'm thinking, yeah. What you don't know is that what you're holding right there, what you're saying, it's 21 breakdowns. Every book was a breakdown in my life. And I wrote about it. And I shared what I did, what I understood from it, what I learned from it, what I learned from my clients also, working through that, and documented everything. And someone just once said, Evette, you have to put this in books. And I thought, no, I never thought of myself as an author, but that's a great idea. Why not? And here we are. The book sold themselves. I'm self-published, sold in more than 80 countries. And People just love it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your story. That's so powerful in such a way that, it helps us to see that, all the successful people that we see, they might be having a breakdown, they might be having a struggle, just that we don't see it. We just think they're successful, they must be happy, but we don't know what's the truth. And many healers start their own work or start their own journey because of something they had to overcome themselves, and now they are teaching others how to do the same, right? So, and
Mm.
you have traveled and taught in over 43 countries. That's just like amazing. Have you noticed that the pain or trauma speaks differently in different cultures, in different countries, or are the emotional pain universally human?
This is such a great question. I'm really glad that you asked that. From my experience, with the 7,500 plus people that I've worked with, I have seen an incredibly big commonality. It's the same. It's the
Wow.
same. It's just the way that we communicate it
Mm.
verbally, and the way that we understand it is slightly different. But when you get to the root of it, the core foundational pain of it, it's the same. It comes out different because we have different levels of awareness. Things, some people value pain more than others, and this can create a really big shift and change as well. And that can influence how we interpret our experiences. So this is where I see just that our personal filters can ultimately affect and influence how we explain what we experience. But when you really help people to connect to their body, come back into it, you'll start to hear the same answer again and again and again.
So, how would you explain the connection between emotions and the body in simple and relatable terms?
So, as an example, I'm sure, and this is something I'm sure many people can relate to. You know that stress headache? That headache that we get when we've had a long day and then the headache comes. We know there's no medical underlying cause. There's no other issues happening. And of course, medically speaking, if that's completely, checked out and made sure that there's nothing nasty breeding there, it's stress. And normally when you find people who have headaches, it's because they're moving through an area or a phase in their life, or they have people around them, or they're doing something where they feel there's conflict in terms of their values, in terms of how they want to do something. And it creates inner conflict. It creates feeling of, I cannot control what I want to do every single time. So that's an example of the type of emotional stress that people feel, which is a mental analytical stress. Then we get emotional stress. Have you ever had a heartbreak, or a relationship ending, or a friendship ending, or the loss of a loved one, or even a pet, or a job ending, some kind of ending? And you felt that right there in the heart. Some people feel it so physical that it feels like there's a knife in their heart. And then suddenly your digestive system starts to feel nauseous. You feel maybe there's cramps, maybe it's a little bit bloated. Why there? Of all the places in the body, why there? You see, so it depends on the kind of person in your life, because family stress, close relationship stress, we hold that in the digestive tract. Love, connection, emotional connection is held in the heart. And for a lot of people also in the stomach. Just as our feet is connected and associated with moving forward in life. So you'll see a lot of people who have a fear of moving forward. Sometimes they have challenges with their legs. Maybe there's artery issues, maybe there's joint pain, knee pain, ankle pain. Maybe they twist their ankles quite a lot. They may be a little bit clumsy when they walk. This is emotions of fear of moving forward. that is sitting in our legs and especially our feet. The back, the spine, it's not just there to support your body. When we have issues with our family and there's conflict with them, or you have a friend and there's conflict between your values and your friend's values, or between your values and your family values, you're going to feel back pain. There's a strong possibility that stress is going to go and sit in your back, feeling unsupported, carrying too much responsibility, not asking for help. You know, when we work at the office as well, a lot of neck pain, a lot of shoulder pain. And then people say, yeah, but it's just because of the way that I sit. Your emotions influences your body posture. Did you know that? Did you know if you sit up straight with your shoulders back, you automatically feel confident?
Yeah.
But if you sit like this, this is hiding. We're hiding now. What do you want to hide from? By whom do you not want to be seen by? What is stressing you so much that you feel it's weighing down on you? Your body is always telling you what is going on. Every single time. Autoimmune problems, feeling attacked by what is meant to love me and make me feel safe. Normally, these are people. And this emotional dialogue, this emotional stress relays and relates back to a very complex biological way of communication in the body. Because when we feel emotions, hormones are released, neuropeptides are released, it influences our blood pressure, it influences transmitters in the body between nerves. It impacts that. Emotions are not just felt in our mind. It is an entire ecosystem experience. That's why when you feel happy, wow, I feel like I'm floating. It's a bliss state. Like it's a full body experience. You don't just feel it in your mind. When you feel nervous, your heart's fluttering. Oh, I feel a little bit of heart palpitations. It's not just in your mind. It's a full body experience. Some people feel, wow, my legs feel a little bit heavy. You know, I feel a little bit nervous, or we start sweating. When we fall in love, our pupils dilate, our heart feels wide open, and suddenly we feel less pain, we feel less depression, we feel less stress and anxiety in our life. Wow. That's a full-blown physiological experience right there. So one emotion can affect another emotion as well, and how that's showing up in the body. Love can counterbalance anxiety, as an example. But too much anxiety can also diminish the love that we feel in our heart. Negative emotions tend to trump. They tend to be prioritized. And the reason why is that we are biologically programmed to be mistrusting, to be suspicious, and we're negative biased. And that's why a lot of positive emotions don't last very long, especially if we have long-term prior emotional wounds and trauma from the past that can exacerbate and lock in negative emotions coming in from our environment, right? So this is one way. I know it was a long explanation, but I think it was important to really give the broader scope of looking at it from just also different perspectives.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm glad that you explained it so beautifully, because it's really hard to understand the connection. Like
Yeah.
people might be asking, I feel pain in my leg. It's just a leg issue. What does it have to do with my emotions? What does it have to do with me? Right? And I was having knee pain for a long time, and you mentioned that, like, moving ahead in life, I was like, that's right. I felt stuck, during that period of time. I
Yeah.
couldn't move.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
I love what you said, because knee pain also, for a lot of people, not all, but for most majority of people, knee pain also relates to feeling that pressure of an authority figure in your life who has expectations of you, and you feeling tired of living up to those expectations because it's not the same as what you really truly want for yourself. Sometimes it can be an actual projection from an influential person in your life, or it can be a story, like a narrative that we're telling ourselves. I need to do more to feel better. I need to do more to be more successful. What is the next step? Always needing to do more. But we start to get tired and burnt out from that. And then that's also where we can get stuck. And then we feel this conflict in terms of how we think something should be done versus, well, what if it can be easier? I mean, the explanation is it can be. I can write a book about just knee pain as an example.
Yeah, so how about inherited trauma? And interestingly, I was just reading a book recently. It's called, I cannot remember the title of the book. Anyway, um, so how can we inherited trauma? Because sometimes these emotional trauma and responses are not ours to begin with. We inherited from our parents or even grandparents and great grandparents, and
Right.
I just couldn't understand why. How are these trauma being passed down generations by generations actually shape how we respond to life today?
That's a really great question. So, from my perspective, what I understood as I was working with people and regressing people sometimes even back, when you look at evolution, it has a way of passing information down to the next generation. And this information is normally quite valuable. It's either things that hurt me and I couldn't overcome it. So we need to have a sensitivity to certain life experiences. We need to have a sensitivity to certain emotional experiences because it's dangerous, it's not good, or we experience trauma as a result of that. But on the other side, what I'm also seeing is that the human body is very solution orientated. So it passes down problems to the next generation to say, hey, we couldn't resolve this. Can you fix this? Because this is kind of like causing problems in our DNA lineage. So let's get stronger, let's grow, let's progress. But then it gets passed down and we don't know what to do with it. And the reason why we don't know what to do with it is because we don't have a relationship with our body. We don't know how to listen to the body. It all starts there. We're so busy in our lives and we've set up our lives to avoid. We've set up our lives around instant gratification. We've set up our lives to not feel. Well, here's the news. If you cannot feel your emotions, why are you even thinking that you can achieve happiness if you can't even feel happiness? Now take a step back further. What is your definition of happiness? What is it? So this is now raising really big questions. We're chasing the end of the world, all these things, but we don't even know what we're chasing because the idea that we have of it is so distorted by these coping mechanisms that we have established in our life to cope with trauma, to cope with stress. We're not thriving. We're barely surviving. When you're in a survival state, you can't feel happy at the same time. It's not possible because your body is focused on looking at threats and it's asking, where is the next threat? It's not asking, where's my next moment of peace and happiness? Your filters are not even looking for it. I mean, your intention to be happy is great, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You need to have a full body alignment if you really want to create happiness. Now, what does that even mean?
Yes.
If you think I want to be happy, that's just a great idea, right? I mean, our conscious mind is only 5%. The subconscious mind is 95% in control. So and you're only in your 5% conscious mind when you are in an active state of desire. When you're consciously actively doing something. How many times have you worked and you're consciously doing something and then suddenly you drift off, but you're still working? And then suddenly you realize, oh wow, I'm back in the office. Okay, great. So what was I doing again? Right? Yes, that's your subconscious mind that took over. Now, here's the secret. If you want to feel happy, Your conscious mind's like, yay, this is such a great idea. Why not? Okay. Your subconscious mind go, all right, roger that, message received. Let's go see in the back of our mind, what do we have associated with our need for happiness being met? Wow. Sadness, loss, attack, judgment, rejection, maybe. I don't know. It's going to be different for every person. And you know what the subconscious mind does? It says, okay, here's the memory for how to be happy. And it brings up pain. And we don't realize it. We have a full-blown physiological biochemical response to this memory that we cognitively, consciously do not have access to, but the emotional body remembers. This is a classic example of anxiety. I feel anxious and I don't know why. Now, look what the 95% is energizing. Pain associated with happiness. And this is the energy match that we become in the world. And that's why we often do things to sabotage happiness. We're about to get there. We sabotage it. We just get there. And then we feel fear because it's not safe. Because the body is reminding us with that fear, oh, well, remember last time when we tried to be happy? Do you remember we felt that loss? Or we were so happy at school and suddenly your friend said, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. That happiness was very suddenly replaced with loss. And that is what the body remembers. Why? Because it posed a threat. The body remembers threats. It doesn't remember things that made you happy. That's not what's going to keep you alive. So this is an excellent example of that. Great question, but that's what I would answer to that. Yeah.
Wow. So how do you help people to release this emotional charge, this pain that associate with happiness? Like, what makes your healing method so different from what is available out there? Because you talk about healing trauma, it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't mean reliving the trauma or re-traumatizing yourself, but your method is all about gentle release. So what does it even mean? What does it look like?
That's a great question. So what we dive into is we look at what is the stress, first of all. Why is the stress there in the first place, at least to the person's awareness? It doesn't matter if it's accurate or not, but just to what extent to their awareness are they aware of, or why they think the problem is there. And sometimes what I find the challenge is the narrative that we tell ourselves. Because sometimes that narrative is not even based on reality. So we're trying to heal something that doesn't actually exist, but we create the false illusion that it is. Because the mind doesn't understand the difference between reality and imagination. And I cannot tell you how many people live in a false reality. I call it alternative realities. And we need to establish this. Where are you? Are you in a place that's real? Or are you in a place that's here? So when people start to wake up to that awareness and that understanding, that in itself already creates an incredible shift. Because if you know, mentally speaking, where you are, not just geographically, but within yourself, with your thoughts, much more power is coming back to you. Because that knowledge is power. Why is it power? Because it gives you conscious, active capacity to change it. I don't want to think this. Okay, well, let's think of 5 other things in my life that's going right. Instead of focusing on what is wrong. You want to stop thinking negatively? Well, it kind of starts with let's focus on 5 things that I'm doing right. 5 things that are going right in my life. That's a good start, right? So once we've established that, we look at where's the emotions in the body. Where do you feel that stress? Where's the kinesthetics of it? What are negative thoughts or sensations also that come forward? We look at the somatics of it. And then we create a safe place. We also help the left and the right hemisphere of the brain to reprocess a lot of the trauma through bilateral and some very, like maybe just 2-3 second eye movement, which is, I think, 5% of the technique itself. But the real change comes in when We teach people, and this is called neurocontagion, where we help people to connect with the other person. And by just that connection, that person copies your state. This is scientifically proven. And I've been teaching this for 17 years. It's only now being properly proven. And when you project and create change in yourself or project it towards that person is going to respond. Their body is going to respond to that. And we have incredible success by understanding what is the emotion, why is it there, why has it not shifted by itself, which is called secondary gain. So we look at what is the hidden secondary gain of that challenge as well. And then we also elicit positive resources and positive thinking in for the person as well. So they walk out of a session feeling sensational. And that's what, in short, a session would look like.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
So you have written 21 books. So what is one core message that you wish everyone could hear on their healing journey, no matter where they are? Whether they are just beginning or whether they are, experienced, or they are therapists themselves, they are healers themselves. What is one message that you want everyone to hear?
Don't let people's feedback become your truth. Don't let people's negative feedback towards you become your truth. My father said, you will wipe vomit off the floors in the pubs where I drink, including mine. When I said to him, Dad, I saw a BMW, and you know what? I'm going to buy one day. That's when I was 12. Remember earlier in the interview, I told you that day when I was 12 and I started visualizing and manifesting what I wanted? It was that day that triggered it. If I was in a different frame of mind, for some children, it can break them. And they can think that that is what I'm going to become. But his truth, his drunken truth, did not become mine. And thank God for that. But I wish for every single person, if there's ever anyone that's sharing their own traumatized values, opinions, or their perceived truth onto you, it doesn't have to become your truth. Find your own.
Yeah, create your own truth. I love that. Thank you so much. I would love to talk to you, but I know you had an important meeting. But good news is we might be meeting in Bali in person next week, so we can do it too. That's why it's exciting. I can't wait. So before we end, tell my people where they can find you if they want to buy any of your books, if you want to dive deep into your work, or even book a session. Where should I send them?
Absolutely. So you can find me on www.metaphysicalanatomy.com. Or you can just Google Evette Rose.
Or you can just visit the show notes, because I'll put all the links and resources. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for all your powerful messages. Yeah, of course, I would love to have you. Even if we are not meeting in person, I would love to have you back, because there's so much. I have so many questions.
I know. I also have so much to talk about.
I know, right? Yeah, so much. And you're so good. Thank you so much for your generous sharing today. Now, guys, again, go visit the show note and go back to the start and listen to it over and over and over again. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye.
Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag FindJoyJoyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.